Welcome to the Be Well at Usask podcast. My name is Peter Headley. I serve as the Director of Student Affairs and Services at the university. In this podcast, guests from the campus community will join me to share ideas and provide guidance on all aspects of being well. We'll also be highlighting campus initiatives and resources designed to engage and support you. In these challenging times, we hope the ideas and information we share will help. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to Kim Matheson and Brock Egeto from the Usask Student Employment and Career Centre, SECC for short. We're going to be exploring career options for students graduating this summer, as well as employment options for continuing students whose summer plans may have changed significantly as a result of the COVID situation. We also discuss the ways in which the team at SECC may be able to help. Well, welcome to the podcast, Kim and Brock. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks so much for having us, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.
Can you start off by telling me a little about your roles and the work that your team typically does to support students? Kim, perhaps you can start.
Sure. So I serve as the team lead for career coaches. My role is really to support the team to make sure that they have what they need to support our students and alumni. And then I also serve as a champion for career education at the University of Saskatchewan. So kind of just reaching out to campus and seeing if there are other ways that we can support students and alumni's career development. The team itself is made up of a wonderful group of career coaches. They work directly with students and alumni, and their focus is really on kind of thinking about their end goal. So they spend a lot of time working with individuals to help them understand their preferences and their needs around careers. So their personality, their strengths, kind of what they want life to look like essentially, and how they want work to kind of fit into that. Help them unpack their career goals, make decisions about their direction, develop a plan, and then kind of navigate the inevitable hiccups that come along the way as kind of plans sometimes go awry. So they're a wonderful group of coaches, very compassionate, very knowledgeable, and they care very deeply about our students and our alumni success.
That's great. And how about you, Brock?
And I am team lead for the employment coordinators at the SECC. So my role is basically helping employers to connect with our students and vice versa. So we support employers through their recruitment processes. So in the fall, we host a number of career fairs. Employers come onto campus to interview our students and hold information sessions as well to talk about their organizations and opportunities that they have available for permanent jobs, summer jobs, co-op and internship opportunities as well. So we also work with students to really help them understand how to articulate the skills that they have, their experiences and their education in that recruitment process. So primarily that's helping them, prepare their resumes, cover letters, and help them understand how to approach interviewing through various different types of interview processes. And so it's really just to help, facilitate that connection between students and employers.
And so that's the work that you're involved with on a sort of typical basis. But obviously, each of us is sitting in our homes today, and we're living through fairly extraordinary times with our campuses largely closed to students. Can students and alumni still access the services provided through SECC?
Yes, absolutely, Peter. Our physical office, as you know, is closed, but our entire team is working remotely, and we've transitioned quite well. All of our resources and all of our services are still available to our students and alumni. If students and alumni visit our website, they'll find everything from resume guides and cover letter guides, resources that they can use to kind of start to kind of carve out their job search documents, information about networking and getting their LinkedIn profile going. Our job posting system is accessed through careerlink.usask.ca, which they can also get through our website. All our career assessments are on there. So our website is fully stocked, and we're keeping that up to date as new information comes in, both in terms of services that are available through the U of S, as well as federal and provincial programs. So we're keeping on top of that. In terms of services, all our services have been transitioned remotely. So students and alumni can still access career coaching. They can make appointments. They can meet with a career coach. We do that over the phone or through a platform such as WebEx, and still offer that service ongoing throughout the summer. They can also access the career assessments and have a conversation with a career coach about those as well. Similarly, resume talks where they can review their job search documents and their LinkedIn profile, meet with one of our employment coordinators for a mock interview. That is all being done remotely. So all those services are still available and still can be accessed definitely through our team. People can also reach out to our team directly if they're not quite sure which service is best for them or how we can help them. In the past, people would be able to drop by our office and ask those questions and just pop in as they were kind of maybe, heading up the ramp to Tim's or making their way through Place Royale. They could stop in and ask that question. But since they can't do that, they can simply just reach out to any of our team members directly. All our contact information is on our website, and we'd be happy to help them or redirect them to who can best help them.
Well, thanks for that, Kim. That's great. And so, Brock, in terms of the world as it is at the moment, we're obviously hearing a lot about job losses and layoffs right across the country as a result of the COVID situation. And this would typically be the time of year when many students are starting or starting to look for summer jobs or actually starting summer jobs. Are there still job opportunities out there right now? And if so, where should students be looking to find them?
Yeah, well, we've certainly seen a major impact on student and new grad employments. We recently did a survey asking local employers what the impact has been on their hiring of students and new grads. And 3/4 of Saskatchewan employers said that they had been impacted in some way by the pandemic as far as their hiring of our students and new graduates. And those impacts range anywhere from simply delaying start dates, which is something that we're seeing with a lot of those organizations, to basically canceling new hires or retracting those job offers, as well as reducing hours and just changing work arrangements. So a lot of companies, where possible, they've adapted by simply moving those students to remote locations to continue their work. But as far as any students out there who, maybe lost a summer job opportunity or were still hoping to find one, certainly there has been a major impact in the number of opportunities that are available out there. However, with the provincial government announcing their reopening plan, we do expect to see more opportunities coming. It may not be a lot or as many as we would typically expect, obviously, in the summer, but for any students out there who are looking to still find summer jobs, there are postings currently, and we do expect to see more as the economy begins to slowly reopen in Saskatchewan. So I encourage any students who are still looking for those summer job opportunities to basically seek out a number of different locations to find those jobs. So job websites such as saskjobs.ca, Indeed Jobs, the University of Saskatchewan's careerlink.usask.ca. So that's our job posting site where employers from basically all over the world post jobs for University of Saskatchewan students. But students will also find some on-campus opportunities in there as well. I also encourage students to make sure that they're checking out company-specific careers pages, as many organizations won't be posting on these general job search sites, but only to their own specific career pages. And the other thing I think students should be keeping in mind if they are looking for summer jobs is to think about who are those essential services that governments have identified that can continue to work and employ people, as those are ones who are more likely to have those job opportunities. So I encourage them to check out those companies' websites.
Yeah, that's really helpful, and we'll post some links in the down bar or the podcast details. So if a student isn't able to find a job, are there any financial supports that are available to them?
Yeah, so there's been a few different programs that have been announced by both the federal and provincial governments. Most common that students will have heard of would be the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, or the CERB program. So that program, it offers up to $2,000 per month over 16 months for individuals who have earned at least $5,000 over the last 12 months, or in the year of 2019. So some of our students who have earned that amount of money would potentially qualify for the CERB program. Many students, unfortunately, won't have earned that required amount of $5,000. So the federal government has also announced the Canada Emergency Student Benefit. And the CESB, the base amount for that would be $1,250 per month. And there are certain criteria attached to that program. One that was just announced was that students who are applying for the CESB will have to demonstrate that they are continuing to look for work. What specifically that looks like hasn't been identified yet, but students who are interested in applying for that program, they do need to be aware that they should be continuing to look for employment. That $1,250 base amount, it does increase for certain individuals, such as those with disability or parents, and it can increase up to a maximum amount of $2,000 a month, basically making it equivalent with the CERB program. Unfortunately, there are some students who still fall through those support gaps, and typically those would be our international students who have not worked over the last year and earned that $5,000. For those students who fall through that support gap, what we're doing is we're encouraging them to get in touch with Student Central on campus, as there are emergency bursaries potentially available to them. And basically what they'll have to do is they'll have to talk to the Student Central and articulate their need for that money, essentially. And so those students who are falling through those gaps are hopefully being supported through that emergency bursary program that's offered through Student Central.
So are you sensing that hiring recruitment practices are different than normal at this time?
Yes, what we're hearing from employers is that as much as possible, they have essentially just moved to online hiring and recruitment. So that means interviewing through Skype or other video chat services. We're seeing onboarding as well through online programs. And so basically the process has just changed a little bit, which has posed a problem for some employers. It's obviously tricky in a lot of cases to move all of your hiring and onboarding to online, but as much as possible, they are adapting to that situation. And in some cases, it sounds like it's just kind of slowed down the whole process. But for many organizations, they're just continuing with that virtual recruitment and onboarding.
Yeah, and I know that people are getting increasingly used to this platform of talking online. And I'm probably one of those few people in the world who actually got a job through a Skype interview. So my first job in Canada was actually, I was sitting in a classroom in London, talking to some folks in Vancouver. So, but I know from that experience that it's an unusual experience and takes some practice. I think I just got lucky first time out. So perhaps looking at it from a slightly different perspective, Kim, if a student can't find a job this summer, are there other ways in which they can be using their time to help them progress their career?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Being employed in the summer or seeking work is an important part of your career development, but there are so many other pieces to that. And this summer is I think going to offer students a unique opportunity, especially with the new benefits programs, as Brock just described, to use their summer in a different way. So if they're not able to secure employment, some of the really neat things that they can be doing is developing themselves professionally, for example, learning some new skills, learning about themselves, finding out more about who they are and kind of mastering some of those pieces, maybe taking on a new hobby, just developing themselves a little bit further as individuals, learning more about themselves. So it may be taking some of the career assessments that we offer. It may be LinkedIn Learning, which is a fabulous suite of very kind of short, crisp, really easy to get through, but really informative modules that people can learn from. Coursera is another great platform. So just spending that time learning in a different way, along with maybe taking summer classes, this is a great way to just continue to kind of create yourself as a well-rounded person and to grow in areas that maybe a traditional work environment or a traditional classroom environment may not give you that opportunity. Something else students can be doing is developing their job search resources and really stocking their toolkit, we say. So getting their resume ready, as Brock mentioned, their students are going to need to demonstrate that they are seeking employment. So continuing to develop your resume, making sure that document is up to date and sharp and best represents who you are, developing cover letters, practicing your interview skills, so a mock interview program, for example, or learning more about interviewing, getting comfortable with interviewing in online platforms, developing their LinkedIn profile. So really, again, growing that toolkit, stocking that toolkit, and making sure that the documents and the sources that they use to represent themselves are shining them in the best light possible. There's an opportunity to do that this summer. Thirdly is developing their network. So I mentioned LinkedIn. And that is a beautiful platform to learn more about the world of work, learn more about individuals' different journeys around career development and how their paths have taken them. It's fascinating sometimes just to spend time on LinkedIn and see how people got from point A to point C and kind of how they navigated that. So there's a lot of growing your network, but also learning about alternative career options that people hadn't even considered. With people being more online now than ever before, there's a genuine ease around that's really started to form where people are more comfortable with engaging in kind of those type of platforms. So even if a student wanted to go ahead and do what we call career information interviews, which we have some information about that on our website, this could be a great opportunity to do that. People are generally really open to helping students and to sharing their wisdom and insights. So this could be a great opportunity to do that this summer as well. And lastly would be volunteering. I know that there are a lot of local nonprofits that are looking to serve the community in different ways. And for the new platform that's being developed and launched by the federal government, it's called I Want to Help. And in there is supposed to be a portal for volunteer opportunities. So that's something that students can make use of as well. Again, just to give them a different summer experience and help them grow themselves as individuals.
And presumably a lot of what you're describing, a part of the effectiveness of it is actually approaching it in a very structured way. So rather than just saying, we'll spend some time around LinkedIn, there are some very practical structured things that people can be doing. And presumably a lot of the effectiveness of that is actually how people structure their time to do that.
Absolutely. And we have resources that can help students learn how to develop their LinkedIn profile and how to navigate on LinkedIn successfully. What we can also do is our career coaches can work with students and alumni to kind of figure out that plan. And like you say, how to use it strategically, how to use their time intentionally, and prioritize some areas that they want to do some of those things in. So that's a part of what our career coaches can do as well is help students kind of figure out a plan as to how they want to approach that in a way that's balanced, because we still want students to rest and enjoy their summer. But this could be a great way of doing some very small things that actually move their career forward.
So we have lots of students now who are gearing up for receiving their final grades and for convocation. And it's usually a very exciting time. And I'm sure a lot of students still feel that. But it is a different time this year. It's an unusual time. And I know we're now aware that there won't be an in-person convocation, which I know will change people's emotions. But also I know from the grapevine, there's a lot of trepidation about graduates going into the quote-unquote world of work right now, and recognizing that many of them have already been in it. But do you have any particular advice for students graduating this summer and thinking about the beginnings of their formal career?
Yeah, it is a very unique time, Peter, definitely. And I think back about, myself graduating, and it was at a time when there were not a lot of opportunities. What's unique about, I think, students graduating this year is that it's a universal experience. Like, they're a part of a universal experience. So the entire world is experiencing, with very few exceptions, the entire world is experiencing this situation along with them. So when employers look at your resume and they talk to you in an interview, they will have the context of 2020 to keep in mind and to look at and to absorb your responses through that. So that's an important piece, because sometimes if there's gaps in a person's resume, they may struggle to justify that or explain that or own what that was about. But the fact that this is a universal experience is something that's important for people to keep in mind. Having said that, I think some of the things that students graduating this year can keep in mind is to really be proactive. So the tips that I just shared for students who can't find a summer job, those can apply equally to graduates as well, in terms of, getting your job search resources in order, stocking your toolkit, working on your professional development, developing your network, volunteering. All those are things that new grads can be doing. In terms of moving forward with employment, I know there's often an interest in finding the job or the perfect job or the dream job when they get out of school. Now more than ever, that may not be a possibility, and that may not look what they think it's going to look like. So for new graduates, I think it's going to be really important for them to focus on skill development. And when they look at opportunities, be open to job opportunities that they may not have otherwise considered before. So things that they maybe would have just passed over and not really thought of because the title wasn't attractive, or the pay may not have been attractive, the terms of the work may not have been attractive. But if you focus on the skill development, that can really bring you much further along in your career development, so that when things do change in the economy and opportunities do open up, you focus on investing and growing the skills that are going to be transferable for you to take forward in the world of work. The other thing to keep in mind is, I say always, kind of using a bit of a Stephen Covey here, is begin with the end in mind. So thinking for yourself, what do you want to be able to say to a potential employer about how you did life in 2020? I've been on lots of calls and webinars in the past few weeks with employers, and I hear consistently that's a question they're going to be asking people in the future is, what did you do in the summer of 2020, and what did that look like for you? So again, going back to your comment earlier about being strategic and intentional, it's a little bit of putting some intentional thought into that, of thinking about how you do want to use this time and then owning that. So it may be that a person wants to use their time developing relationships, or they want to use their time focusing on their physical health, or on growing their network, or developing their skills. And again, really owning that and being intentional and specific about that. That it's going to hold a lot of weight to employers when a person talks about how they did life in this experience, and how they came through on the other side, and whatever that looked like, just owning that journey.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And Brock, maybe I can ask you something spinning off from Kim's comments. I know when I talk to incoming students and their parents, I often talk about, we have this sense that when you get to university, or as you're finishing university, it's just a straight road into the sunset. Whereas in reality, it is not a straight road. It is a very windy road, potentially career-wise, but also because it's Saskatchewan with lots of bumps in it. What are your reflections, or what would you share with students thinking that, oh no, this is just a straight road into the sunset now, career-wise, I've got my plan, I'm going to stick to it, and this is how it's going to work, versus the reality?
So I would just say that that's a good point. Like, it's not going to be a clear road for you, for many students, as far as their career goes, as far as their job search goes. It will be a little bit bumpy for many people. And just kind of reflecting on Kim's comments there, I think you do, as a student, particularly if you're graduating right now, you really just have to keep an open mind about how to approach this reality that we're facing right now, and to use it to the best of your ability, and take advantage of the time that you have to develop your skill sets, as Kim mentioned, to look for volunteering opportunities, build your connections, and potentially even to think about continuing your education in other ways, maybe going back to school, whatever that might look like. So you really do have to just reassess, I think, a little bit, take a step back and think about, how do I best use this time if, what is basically going to be happening is that your career is more or less going to, be put on hold potentially for a little while. You're going to have to ride out some of those bumps. And so, just to reflect on, how can I best use this time in thinking about my career long term.
Yeah, thanks. And so, given your experience in the area of careers, do you see this current situation actually changing the world of work in any way?
Definitely. I've observed a couple different things over the past, I guess it's been a couple months now. There's really a shift in terms of embracing alternative ways of working. So remote working, for example. Organizations that would have never entertained that option, maybe never explored that option, were really forced to fully transition to working remotely. And I think that out of this, there's going to become a new openness to that, I guess, and an openness to working in different ways, and working with different people. I know as an institution, it's been so heartening for me to be able to work with colleagues in student services in very different ways over the past several months and kind of come together. And so things that were typically barriers or issues or things that we would have never even considered before are now fully embraced, and people are just kind of running with it. So I think there's a new sense of different ways to work. Alongside that similar train of thought is I think people have really discovered, or in some case maybe rediscovered, their capacity for growth and change. And it's kind of like when you go through something really difficult and really transformational, such as the past several months for all of us, we get a new appreciation as professionals, but also as individuals, as to how resilient we are and how much we can, in fact, grow and change when we need to. It may not be very comfortable in the moment, but there becomes a new awareness that I have capacity to do that, and I can grow in that way. And I think related to that, it's really prompted people to reflect about their career and the work that they want to do. I think lots of people now are just thinking in broader ways of what's important to them and what they want life to look like and how they want the world of work to be a part of their life. So it's really prompted this self-reflection, I feel.
Did you want to add any thoughts there, Brock?
Yeah, I'll just kind of build a little bit on what Kim was saying there. In addition, I just want to mention or talk about a little bit how I think the labor market is going to be evolving, and organizations, we're going to see some of them perhaps disappear. Certain businesses, might not make it through this pandemic. And so that will have a big impact on what it looks like out there in the world of work and for opportunities that are available. But right now, we just don't really know exactly what that will look like. One thing I do think we know we will see, and Kim kind of mentioned this, is that how we work is really going to be changing. And already technology is such an important part of our lives and our work lives. And now I think it's just going to be so much more so that is the case. And for students and new graduates, I think what they're going to find is that they're going to really need to be able to articulate how they are fluent with technology, how they are quick to learn new technology, and that is going to be such an important part of any new job that they are finding, particularly if they're going into professional positions, office positions, especially right now. If you are moving into a remote working situation, you're going to need to know how to adapt to the new technologies that you're going to be faced with when you come into a new position. And for anybody who struggles with that, I think that their job search is going to be a little bit more difficult. And so is their ability to adapt in those new roles. So, yeah, again, I think just digital technology is going to be so much more important in our work lives.
Well, I know we make this assumption that young people these days actually have a lot of fluency with the technology. And whilst there's no question about that, that doesn't necessarily tend to be in the professional context, where it is actually quite a different skill set.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We know that young people these days are very adept when it comes to social media and, using their smartphones and that sort of thing. But as you mentioned, Peter, in the work context, the technology is a little bit different, and students aren't necessarily learning that through their degrees. So I think it's going to be important for any young people looking to be successful in their careers to be really conscious about developing that digital technology skill set while they're in university and looking for any opportunities that they can to broaden their knowledge of technology.
So, of course, I say the word young people because all three of us are very, very old nowadays. So I'm asking all my guests to share one thing they're doing right now to be well, perhaps something that brings them joy or a sense of connection. Kim, maybe I can ask you first. What would be that thing for you, and how do you find it's helping?
So something that helps me not to feel so old.
Well, yeah, if you like.
Yeah. You got it. Yeah. I think for me, it's been definitely taking care of my physical health. That's been very important to me. And as the weeks go by, I've recognized that more and more. So just getting out and moving every day, yoga, walking, eating well, getting good rest. And now we all get to enjoy the sun and fresh air. And I find that days when I don't do that, I definitely feel it. So that's been really important to me is taking care of my physical health.
How about you, Brock?
Yeah, I think Kim and I are very similar in that way. I think the most challenging aspect for me of working remotely is just the constant sitting at my desk here at home. At least when I was back in the office, I moved around, I walked to meetings, I'd get around campus a little bit, but now it feels like I'm just more or less stuck in my chair. So the nice weather that we've been having lately has been a real godsend, like just getting outside for walks and hikes and bike rides. That's gone a long way to improving my physical health, but also my mental health. And that's the important thing for me.
So is there a final thought that either of you would want to leave listeners with, maybe related to the work that you do or just in general?
Yeah, that's I was thinking about that quite a bit when you asked that. I would really say to please reach out. And even if you're unsure of how we might be able to help or how the university might be able to help you, we're blessed with a beautiful community of people who are amazing and knowledgeable and care so much about our students. I've known that. I've been on campus 20 years, but now I've witnessed it so much in the past 2 months. And they're very much have a heart for students and for an alumni. So please reach out and know that if the person that you happen to reach is not able to help you, I'm quite confident they'll be able to redirect you to someone who can.
Anything you'd want to add to that, Brock?
Yeah, just that I think, for students and new graduates, this is going to be a very challenging and anxious time, I think, for them as far as being concerned about missing opportunities to develop their skill sets and gain work experience. I think it's just going to be important for them to realize that everybody's in the same boat together. We're all being impacted by this. All students are having to deal with the consequences of the pandemic on their employments and missing, opportunities that they might have otherwise had. And again, I encourage them just to, think about the best ways that they can use this time that they now have in developing their skill sets, continuing their education, looking for volunteer opportunities, and again, keeping an open mind about work opportunities, because there will be some out there, and it might not be exactly what they were hoping for, but that doesn't mean that they're not good opportunities to develop those important skills and to develop networks and just gain some really good experience in general. So yeah, just again, I encourage them to keep an open mind about any ways that they can use this time productively.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, I really, really appreciate the work that you guys do and that happens at SECC, but also you guys taking the time to talk to me today. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter.
Yes, thank you, Peter. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks for listening to the Be Well at Usask podcast with me, Peter Headley. And thanks again to Kim and Brock for joining me and sharing. Students can connect with the SECC team through the contact details and links in the episode details. Please check in again for further episodes and more content related to being well. Please subscribe and share this podcast. You can find us on multiple platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and more. We'd also love to hear from you, so please post comments and questions and we'll look to include them in future episodes. Also, if there's someone you'd like to see as a guest or a topic you'd like us to cover, or even a reaction to an episode you want to share, please write to us at bewell.podcast@usask.ca. In the next episode, I'm going to be talking to Dr. John Mattick, the senior physician at the Usask Student Wellness Center. We're going to be talking about the medical response to COVID-19, the potential for a second wave as the province begins to reopen, and ways in which we can continue to be mindful about keeping ourselves and one another safe and healthy. We also talk about some of the ways in which family physicians can support student mental health. So until next time, stay safe and be well.